what is industrial symbiosis straight away. I have that particular example down there, but from an dictionary context. In biology, industrial symbiosis is an interaction between two different organisms living in close physical association to the advantage of both. And typically how it happens is, if you put it in practical applications, you have the alligator here, call it like crocodile, and you have the weaver bird here. After having a lunch in the afternoon and he's tired, but his teeth is still stuffed with leftovers, he has no one to help. The weaver bird comes in and says, look, I can help you. If you give me a chance to get in there and pick all your teeth, I will leave you clean, you'll have no more clogging in your teeth, I'll go away with a free lunch, you'll be happy, and I'll be satisfied. Typically, that is how industrial symbiosis is. That is how it works. Let's go into the practicals of how we can go. Industrial symbiosis programs, that is ISPs, that is Gauteng, KZN, and Western Cape, free services that connect companies so that they can identify and realize the business opportunities, and this is enabled by using unused or residual resources. And these resources could be material, could be energy, could be water, could be assets, logistics, and experts. Hence, connecting industry and creating opportunities. How does industrial symbiosis contribute to resource efficiency and vision waste? Let me use an example of a foundry. This foundry produces corner corex slag and Conax dust, which ends up in the landfill site. Sorry, it ends up in the landfill site here. But with industrial symbiosis coming in, you have different waste users of this slag to start up and establish possible subsidiary industries. You have a road construction aggregate being picked from here. You have one manufacturing quartz and stone for flooring from this slag, and you have one who is manufacturing granite, brick, and masonry from this slag. Eventually, this particular slag pile will be halved. And definitely you'll have this guy cutting on costs of transporting this particular slag to here. It will be going down here, and he'll definitely be able to save. And these guys down here should be able to reap off some effects when they, instead of buying input raw materials. If we go to the next example, you have wood. You have wood waste. Old wood going to the landfill site, you have broken wood going to the landfill site, you have offcuts going to the landfill site. It's a mess here. But with industrial, this is a situation without industrial symbiosis, but with industrial symbiosis, you will have all this waste coming to someone who says, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an SMME, gave me the opportunity. He establishes a particular company here, he consumes all this waste. This busy line, the traffic which goes to the landfill site will be cut off, and you'll have new products coming out. Free waste, free input resource, new products coming out. That is how industrial symbiosis works. If you look at the next slide, a retail example, you have this particular retailing shop. It has organic waste, food, and grease and dirty recyclables, which goes to the landfill site. But with industrial symbiosis, straight away you have all the waste coming from this retail shop coming down to one particular industry making vermicomposting, one doing biodiesel production, one doing post-consumer recycling, and definitely biogas production. At the end of the day, you'll have waste reduced from going to the landfill site, coming down to support the establishment of new industries, and these come with associated benefits, as we shall be able to see. And this is it exactly. What does industrial symbiosis benefit? It increases profits, sales, jobs, new businesses. It reduces carbon emission at the landfill site. It reduces carbon emissions. It reduces landfill costs, use of virgin resources, industrial water usage, hazardous waste, pollution, transport, and those are the typical benefits. And I would like you to pay attention to the next presenters, how this works out. Now, having looked at that, how is industrial symbiosis and waste economy related?
Great. Henry and I are a good tag team. We thought it would be quite good just to have a few slides to show how what we're talking about in this session relates to some of the things that were discussed in the previous session. Generally, when people talk about the waste economy, they talk about post-consumer waste, so things that you have thrown out. That might go into another manufacturing process. So, for example, PET bottles might go into these fleeces that we wear to keep ourselves warm. You might also get situations where it goes into closed-loop recycling. We are now seeing bottle-to-bottle PET recycling, glass-to-glass. That really is the realm that kind of generally is the focus of the waste economy, post-consumer. Although not exclusively, we tend to focus on manufacturing when we talk about industrial symbiosis. That is where we put most of our energies and efforts. And that's because the material arises typically in one place, it's still concentrated, it's still clean. It's probably the easiest place to find it in order to make new products from it. We do find by default, because things do become packaged in industry, that you will find some recyclables. So we get lots of plastic sheets, wooden pellets, as you'll see later. So it does enhance that kind of waste economy, the typical dry recyclables and organics and things that you're used to. But really where we're looking for is taking those waste materials and producing new products, new value-add products from them. And that really for us is the kind of industrial symbiosis holy grail. A lot of our wins at the moment, what we're achieving, isn't those dry recyclables, but what we'd like to see is value add to the economy by using these waste materials. And we then typically target manufacturing. We don't exclude retailers, hotels, and we've even had like not-for-profit recycling organizations involved in some of our process as well, social enterprises. So you kind of think, well, why Gauteng, KZN, and the Western Cape? If we look at the gross value add of manufacturing, and here the darker brown it is, the more manufacturing activity it is, it becomes quite obvious that Gauteng is where it's at. There's some manufacturing activity in the Western Cape, some in KwaZulu-Natal, and potentially a little bit around Port Elizabeth. So that's why in starting these IS programs, these have been the logical places to start them. And time will tell then whether we use those as hubs and extend out further, say into Mpumalanga, Southern Free State, and whether there's a value in going and having a program in the Eastern Cape as well, focused maybe on PE and East London. But you want to go where there's manufacturing activity. So there's JISP, KISP, and WISP. To give you some sense of perspective, if we look at the gross value add and we just benchmark on Gauteng as one, and you saw that aligns quite well with the manufacturing statistics we saw this morning and the GDP type statistics. It's about 50% just over of the manufacturing activity in KZN, and about 40% in the Western Cape. So as we see these programs develop, we expect that the Gauteng and the KZN programs will be really big ones. But we started this activity very much in the Western Cape, although the NCPC had tried this as a fledgling activity, I think in 2010 it was. But we really got a program started in the Western Cape. How does that work at the moment? While, as Victor described, that national strategy process is continuing, we are already collaborating as a voluntary set of programs. WISP is delivered by Green Cape, a sector development agency in the Western Cape, and the NCPC are effectively running JISP and KISP. We now collaborate voluntarily. We've made sure that we all have the same database. What that allows us to do is make links between companies in KZN and Western Cape, Gauteng, etc. Because we really do see that for a lot of these reuse opportunities, you might not have all that kind of specialist or focused activity in your province. So this truly already is operating as a national scale program on a shared database. The funding, we now have regional funding, and there's immense benefit in that for us because it allows each of the programs to tailor themselves to the priorities and focus areas and nature of the economy in those various provinces. So economic development funds us and WISP, GDAD, agricultural rural development and economic development Gauteng, and economic development, tourism and environmental affairs here in KISP. And we've indicated the DTI is a prime funder to the NCP, so there's national level funding going into this program as well, and as well through our bi-weekly teleconferences with each other, we're starting to look at where there are strategic things that emerge and hopefully leveraging the voice of the DTI to get those things onto a national agenda around how we can unlock opportunities. In the interest of time, I'm going to flash through what we've achieved at WISP, as I indicated, funded by the Western Cape government, delivered by Green Cape. We recognised from the start that we needed to form partnerships with business, and from that point of view, we've got the Cape Chamber of Commerce as one of our steering committee members, as well as kind of the City of Cape Town. We have 70 to 80% of our economy in the Western Cape. I'm going to point out International Synergies Limited. We look good because we stand on the shoulders of people who've done this internationally. ISL have developed programs initially in the UK, and they have now helped initiate programs in about 20 countries internationally. So we are part of an international network of programs across all the continents. These are actually by now old statistics because we've had a workshop since, but we've got over 250 companies, over 1,000 underutilized resources. And when you start seeing Henry's numbers in Gauteng, we pale in comparison. But we've been at it for a few years. The kind of things we're getting, typically, at the moment, we're getting anything from about return to business from government investment. We're aiming for about 5 to 1, and we'd hope for later about 7 to 1. Overseas, they've been able to get much higher numbers. But we don't have things like a landfill tax, etc., that make these business opportunities viable where they would have been in the UK. But we are seeing real impact on the ground, and you'll see some of our case study companies who will tell you a lot more about that. To give you an idea, it must be your right-hand side. I'm dyslexic, so it doesn't help us. You can see the structure of our economy, and you can see that that is to some extent reflected in our membership. What is interesting is that, of course, the waste management companies play a key role as enablers because they collect waste. They're able to play a key role in making sure that it remains separated and that it can go to people who use it. And, of course, they already manage a lot of that dry recyclables market. The other interesting addition there is the construction and demolition sector is a key area where we're finding an impact for industrial symbiosis. To give you some other sense as well, we tend to very much have a membership which is about 29% large companies, 71% SMEs. And that is often because those are the manageable sizes of waste, and those are often the companies that are really interested in getting our support. And can move quickly to give Henry a gap. We very much worked initially on just making it happen so that we have the evidence base. We're now using industrial symbiosis much more strategically to start looking at economic development and really targeting where we find value-add opportunities, both in terms of economic multipliers as well as in terms of job creation.
Okay, that was Western Cape. What is in for Gauteng and KZN? We have the Gauteng Industrial Symbiosis Program, which is funded by GDAD, that is Gauteng Department of Rural Agriculture and Development, if I'm correct, but GDAD and GDED. And then the program is delivered through NCPC in strong collaboration with Ekululeni, while the KZN Industrial Symbiosis Program is funded by KZN, Department of Economic Development and Tourism, and it is delivered through NCPC. We've had, so far when we started, we've had 2 workshops. One was held in November, one in March this year. And out of those two workshops, we were able to cut out and look at what wastes were discussed on the way on the workshops. If you look at these 2 long slides here, this is expertise. The green one, those are the guys who have expertise, and the blue, green is haves and blue is wants. Quite surprising is when you come down here, you look at the packaging and plastic, you have a lot of haves and a good number of wants. And the same applies to the wood here. But what happens? Why is it that people have and others want, but there is no connection happening? And that is how we peep in here to see how we can have those two talk and waste move from one place to another and something is done. The same applies to KZN. Expertise, they want a lot. The haves are here. I think this tells you there isn't enough for what people want here. If you look at packaging and plastic, this is a typical of what is happening in Durban industries, and then come down to wood here. Okay, you have all these that we have been able to capture in our previous workshops, and if we go on to have these engagements and have companies sit and talk, we shall be able to realize a lot of synergies that would definitely tie into industrial symbiosis. If you look at Gauteng specifically, for the 2 workshops I talked about, we have some synergies in the pipeline. So when I talk of synergies, I mean this particular company has waste, this particular company wants it, and those two are talking to unblock any barrier to make sure this waste moves from A to B, from company A to company B. And when those are offset, when that movement happens, you will have waste diversion equivalent to 300 tons of waste from the landfill site. You will have private investment equivalent to 95 million rand. And we are looking at cost savings to companies of 37 million rands, energy that will be saved close to 1,400 megawatt hours, and then fossil greenhouse savings of close to 3,000 tons, and jobs that will be created, 3 temporary, but that is a raw figure on jobs creation, because if you invest 94 million rands in a project, I don't think you'll only be able to employ 3 people. It will go beyond that. And those are the green jobs we are talking about. Thank you so much.